My in between session, I'd like get my note done. I write a little handwritten thing. Um, I just try to. So then at the end of the day, I'm not gassed.
See, I need to practice that, like how to do that, because I usually gas at the end of the day. But
I'm not gonna say I'm not. I'm not no perfect therapist who like.
you're not.
Nah,
Hard,
man.
what?
Nah, man.
You're slacking, bro.
Does that feel comfortable, close enough?
Yeah, that's good. I mean, as long as you can hear me, okay. That's, Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, you don't gotta like lean into it or anything like that. It'll pick you up. But if you like feel like you're going to, you can always bring the arm a little closer.
Sure.
I like to have it like tucked a little bit because I'll be moving around and shit. And like,
Yeah, that's the part. I'm like, I hope you can still hear me, because I will probably be moving and stuff. But
cool.
I trust your AI. Just don't make a fake, deep fake of me.
Right. Any last things? No, I don't think so. We can probably get started.
Okay.
All right. Kelvin, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for
I
the
think,
invite.
yeah, man. Yeah. Kelvin and we met through my supervisor in a network and then have had a handful of coffee dates together where we really got to know each other. So I'm really happy you're on, man.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, dude. Well, I'm thinking we could start with a really vulnerable question just to like break the ice.
Yeah, as we all do.
Yeah, right. So last night, I was texting you, man, and I was about to go to bed. I got home from a concert and I checked my notifications and it was like, Kelvin liked your message. It was like 12:20. So my question for you, right? My excuse was I was at a concert late, so like I was past my bedtime. I'm just wondering, as a therapist, what's your bedtime, man?
Oh man, it depends, right?
Mm.
Honestly, I would say maybe like 10 p.m., 11 p.m.
Okay.
It's because after sessions, I try to have some time for me. But also the good part about being a therapist is that I get to start whenever, right? So my first clients are usually like 11 a.m.
Right.
So I usually work from like 11 till 5 or 6 p.m. And then from then on, those 4 or 5 hours is just for me.
Cool.
So yeah.
Okay, get your beauty rest.
You know what I'm saying?
It was a Friday night last night, so
And that too. And check this out. I was actually just coming out of a play over at so yeah, a friend of mine is he works over at a theater called Acts on Stage, and last night was their opening night for their play called Detroit 67. So yeah, I just went over there to support, and they got done around like it started like 7, they got done around like 10. So then we kind of went out to just celebrate with him. So that's why.
Okay.
I was I was checking my messages at midnight, like, oh yeah, Mark, all right, I gotta respond back to him.
Are you much of a play goer, or are you just a really good friend?
Both.
Okay.
Both. Actually, he's really got me into theater and checking out all these theatrical productions and stuff like that. And this theater house puts on some dope plays, right? It's like a black-owned theater company here they're over in West Seattle, and man, they put on some dope plays. Like some of my everyday friends that have been in their plays, I'm like, what? You can act? It's like, yeah, it was just really cool. The director was really good, made me feel really comfortable, and yeah, I couldn't tell. Like, it was her first time acting. She did great. So,
wow,
yeah, shout out to them.
Yeah, I think plays are so fun. Back when middle school, now all my friends are like, "Oh, here Mark goes talk about his glory days." Back in middle school, I love being in plays and acting, man.
Killing it.
Yeah, I was Charlie in the Chocolate Factory.
Oh snap!
Yeah, played Charlie.
Okay, main character.
Yeah, I played Aladdin. Yeah,
main character.
They loved having the Asian dude up there playing Aladdin. Back before puberty, I was like, oh yeah, I can kind of sing right now. I could show you the world type,
Weak.
So no, plays are fun, expression and all. You ever act?
No, I have not. Man. But he's trying to get me into it because he's like, I'm gonna turn on my friends and theater kids, and I'm like, nah, dude. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm definitely thinking about it because again, I like got to know the director a bit and the people who own the place. They're all dope people, and I think yeah,
Mm,
everybody has a potential to act. Maybe I should. Damn, now you got me thinking about it now.
right.
Shit.
Hey, and now it's on
Okay.
the podcast, so gonna have to
Dang.
stick to the word. I think the people want that.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see.
Oh
Mm,
man. So before this, I was telling you that I was doing my research on you. If
mm,
you Google search Kelvin Peprah,
man,
right, it's popping on there. This
it's
guy's a
popping.
popular guy, therapist,
Yeah.
public speaker. He got all the titles.
Yeah, 5 results on Google.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah, way more than me. And you were invited on this show to talk about imposter syndrome,
Mhm.
and maybe we can get into imposter syndrome in a second. But I'm curious, like, what is it like for you to get invited as as an expert in the
Mm.
field?
It's if it can feel weird at times, right?
Uh-huh.
Being called like an expert, right? I think it's also just because being a therapist, going to school with like-minded individuals, right? You're thinking, oh, I mean, everybody sees things like this, right? Or knows these kind of things, right? Like, what is anxiety, right? What is a mental health disorder, right? What is attachment, right?
Mhm.
You're thinking everybody knows these things. So to you, it's like normalized, right? But then when you step outside and you hear people talking about things that, you learned about in Psych 101, you're like, that's weird because, the things I'm talking about is grad school level. But people are like, oh my God, you're in the experiencing this. Like, what is anxiety? Like, tell us more about, impact of parenthood or parenting and attachment. I'm like, okay. And in some ways too, I think even as I'm talking right now, like that's also kind of like reinforcing, implying a bit of that imposter syndrome, right? Like
Mm,
wondering about your own confidence even in the topics. But
mm,
I think seeing people's reaction and responses, it kind of gives you and reminds you that no, not everybody knows what you know, right? And they are looking at you because they believe that you're someone who went to school for this. You're someone who has the knowledge and the experience in this. So why wouldn't you be invited, right? Why wouldn't you be asked to give your thoughts or opinions about it,
wow.
right? And just learn to be okay with that. So it was weird for me in the beginning, and it still kind of is. But I'm working through it. I'm working through it. And just learn to accept it.
Yeah, already getting used to the bright lights and the cameras. So
Man,
this
I'm
ain't
saying,
nothing for
hey,
you.
it's a casual Wednesday. I know it's Saturday, but
Yeah.
might as well be Wednesday.
How was it for you to get like invited on that show? It looks super like well set up.
Yeah, I mean, a friend of mine connected me to it, and it actually turned out that I had met some of the people that were already working on that show as well.
Really?
So yeah, so it's Converge, and
Hmm.
you know, shout out to the folks at Converge Media. But these are also community people, right? And I've seen them, in different spots and whatnot. So yeah, when we got to actually see them, like, oh snap, it's you. You hosting this or you running this?
Yeah.
A buddy of mine, shout out to Vic. He was the photographer over there taking pictures. When he saw me, I was like, what you doing here? I was like, what you doing here? I was like, oh, okay, cool. And you in the suit? Like, yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
But no, it was cool. So that was like my first the first interview I had, right? Doing something like that. And it was really cool because it kind of makes you just see that nah, this is something that should be just normal, right?
Mm,
Kind of like what we're doing now, just sitting down and just having a conversation.
right.
It just so happens that'll be put online for millions of people to see. But hey,
Millions.
right?
Right.
It's just a regular conversation,
Yeah,
you know.
man. No, I'm glad we could do this. In that interview, you talked imposter syndrome and you just mentioned the sense of building your confidence as an
Hmm.
expert, as a clinician. What was
Hmm.
that process like for you?
Um, I think every therapist experiences imposter syndrome,
Mm,
and I think it's just the nature of the job and the field itself, right? Like you have people coming to you with a certain expectation, right? And oftentimes you wonder if you'll be able to live up to that expectation, right? Of being the one that quote unquote fixes them, right? Or helps them or heals them, right? And, even as you mentioned, being the subject expert, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, and is that something that you can do, right? Is always the question. So I think for me, definitely reflecting on it when I started, that was definitely something I felt, especially being a black male therapist.
Yeah.
You have a lot of people that kind of come to you with a certain expectation that, oh, you're a black male therapist. You understand where I'm coming from, right? And you understand, what I need, and
Mhm.
you'll be able to help me. And it's like, I graduated last month, bro. Like, I don't know what I'm. Well, I don't know what I'm doing, but this is still fresh for me, right?
Yeah.
So there definitely was that, and there definitely was that sense of pressure, right, and sense of responsibility to be able to do all these things. But I think as time goes on, um, just remembering the importance of humility, right? At the end of the day, like the one of the most important values I believe to have in this work is just a sense of humility and just curiosity, right? And recognizing that people might be coming to you to be the expert, but flipping it around, be like, no, actually, I'm not. I might know some things, but ultimately, the one truth you want to say kind of comes from you, and
Man.
it comes from you talking as I'm just being humble and curious about you. So that for me, is what helps me to just, when these expectations kind of show up, just remind myself that no, I am doing the work by just simply being here and by just simply being curious and just being humble, and I just like a good story. So
Totally.
yeah, tell me your story.
I feel the same way. It's like I think that responsibility as you were talking, I took such a deep breath because I felt
Mm,
like what you were saying really resonated.
mm,
Being an Asian male therapist and just
mm,
feeling
mm,
responsible as a representative in a
mm,
predominantly white field
mm, mm,
is scary,
yeah.
because I've had few Asian clients come in with that same expectation that you're naming your clients too.
Mm,
And I'm like, shoot, man, I, we might have the same like cultural background or ethnic background, but I don't know what it's like to be you in
right,
that in our culture.
right.
I can only say so much, and like shit, I could have such a different experience or take on what it means to be, a Vietnamese man or what it means to
Mm,
be a Filipino man or whatever.
mm, mm,
And at the end of it, doesn't really matter what I feel. It
right,
matters what you feel.
right.
I feel like that's such a hard thing to get clients to buy in on, especially if they're coming in um, expecting you to be the expert, which I think a
Mm,
lot of uh, clients of color often expect,
yeah,
right? Because therapy one isn't cheap and like
yeah.
comes with like, I'm coming to you for a service.
Mm,
How are you going to provide that to me?
mm, mm.
How have you how have you gotten clients to buy in, if you will, on them being the expert in their lives?
That's a great question. I think part of it might just come from my style of therapy, right? Which is just asking the questions, right? Like I said, I like a good story, and I have questions about your story,
Mm,
right? And when folks are talking, about what's going on for them, why they do things they do, right? I just will make questions. Okay, how come? Why did you do that, right? And it's not necessarily from coming from a place of trying to blame or trying to say this is what you did wrong, but it was like, no, I genuinely want to know what you know was the motive behind that, right? Like what prompted you to either make that choice or make that decision or even see things in that light, right? And what I've discovered is as people are just talking, right, and you're asking these questions, they are in a sense taking control and agency of their story, right, as they're sharing it. Because it's like I'm not the one telling them who they are; they're telling me who they are. And if I ask a question and they get it wrong, they say, "Well, no, it's more like this," right? And it's like,
Mhm.
okay, that's good. I'm glad that you would like to correct me,
Yeah.
right? And the fact that I didn't, um, like either fight back or there wasn't some sort of pushback against it, helps to one build that sense of, I think, just trust and connection, with the client, but also, again, helping them kind of learn and take control of that agency and kind of buy into this process that's happening in this space.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it's just more so my style. I'm just a curious person.
Yeah. I've known that about you. That's very true. The
Yeah.
clients that you tend to see, um,
Mm.
what is often the some of the challenges they come in trying to address? Do you notice any themes?
Um. So a lot of my clients are clients of color,
Mhm.
right? And during consultation, what I find is, especially just being in Seattle, right? A lot of folks kind of come in trying to navigate microaggressions,
Mhm.
right, and experiences of racism or just racist experiences and things like that.
Mhm. And for anybody listening who might not be familiar with the term microaggression, how would you describe that?
That's a good question. A microaggression is almost like a slight kind of just invalidation of folks' either identity, their experiences and whatnot. So it's not like a blatant, calling someone, slur, right? But it's a slight, again, it's a subtle, slight kind of validation. Um, we have like micro insults, micro invalidations and whatnot, right? But it's not as you know, overt as a slur, but certainly not necessarily respectful of someone's either identity or their experiences that they have had. Um, so a lot of my clients have had those experiences, whether it be at work or sometimes in some relationships, what have you. And even more so, a lot of them too with their own therapists that they've had.
Mm.
Because I've had a lot of clients who have reached out saying, "Yeah, I've done therapy in the past, but I didn't feel like she really understood where I was coming from,
Mhm.
culturally, or when I try to tell them about what happened, they try to either you know rationalize it or try to maybe explain, say, well, maybe they didn't mean it like that." And it's like, well, that doesn't mean, one, how would the therapist know? Because you weren't there, right? And
Mhm.
two, that is a kind of an invalidation of the client's experiences, right? And that's not for us to try to, discern, right, whether this actually happened or it didn't happen, right? Because again, we weren't present there. So I've had a lot of folks reach out specifically for me because of these bad experiences that they've had with their past therapists, and that's been a bit disheartening to hear, as a therapist of color, just because in this profession, our aim and goal is to help, but it's sad when it feels like these very same healers do harm to the people that they're trying to help.
Yeah,
So
I agree. And like, I think you're naming a very real thing in the
mm,
field, and sometimes um, can be avoided with intention. Oftentimes can be avoided with intention. And like for clinicians out there who might be listening,
mm,
who have experienced, you know, inadvertently being microaggressive toward a client and
mhm,
like having a rupture in the relationship,
mhm.
how would you encourage them to go about repairing that if the client chooses to stay?
Yeah. And I've had some of those in my own work with clients, right, where
Hmm.
they have been a rupture where, honestly, reflecting on it, I kind of just sensed a bit of like, you know, antagonistic energy maybe that kind of showed up, right, within the session, right. And the next time we meet, I first thing I do is apologize,
Mm.
right? I immediately call it out and recognize, like, hey, I noticed that, now last session there was a bit of like a back and forth, and it maybe felt like I wasn't maybe hearing you, or you know, didn't feel like you felt that what you're trying to communicate was actually being, validated. And I just would like to apologize for that. Right,
Mhm.
that wasn't my intention, and I hope that moving forward, if something like that happens again, please, call me out. Like I had something like that happen with a client whom, um, not to go too much into detail, but basically was harmed by a former therapist of theirs, right?
Yeah.
And which led to a certain situation where now they find themselves having to be in therapy by law, basically, as part of like their, you know, the probation deal and all that plea deal and all that stuff. But basically, no, I try to recognize that. I try to recognize what's happening here, and try to recognize that there were some moments in the sessions where there was some tension, and I immediately the next time I just called that out, like I would like to sincerely apologize, right? I do not want to cause harm, and if I am, I will hope and want you to be able to call me out on it and say, no, this is not, what I want. This is not, where this is, what I'm seeking here,
Yeah.
right? And could we maybe do a reset? Because again, I want to know, right? And to for a client to feel that sense of trust with you, right? They should be able to call it out,
Mhm.
right? Should be able to call out, hey, this is no, I don't think this is working. Like that's not what I'm trying to say, right? So be able to have that certain level of rapport with your clients, so they are able to call things out when they do show up.
Totally. And I hear that humility piece that you mentioned earlier
Mm-hmm.
of like we're all human too, and we
Right.
fuck up,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like not
Absolutely.
even out of intention, it's just we're human and that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I think it takes a lot, and something that I try to do too, to just really be noticing how the client's reacting to the things I'm saying, because I don't think I'm gonna get
Mm-hmm.
it right every time,
Absolutely not.
and I might hurt them in the things that in the things that I share.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of fruit on the tree of coming back and being like, hey, I noticed you had this reaction. I noticed when I said this, you looked really uncomfortable, or
Mm-hmm.
at least it seemed to me that you did. And I want to make sure that like we're good here.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we could talk through what that was like for you to hear me say something like that to you.
Right.
And like pointing out that present process between you and client, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
can be so healing, especially if they don't have anybody else in their life who's done that for them.
Right.
Powerful. How do you balance coming back to the sense of being like the being like poised as the expert? How do you
Mm-hmm.
balance being an expert and being human in the room?
Mm. So yeah, I think it kind of ties into just my style again, right?
Hmm.
Um, Coming from a existential phenomenological,
Mm.
orientation, right?
You Seattle, you grads.
Listen, we out here. Hey, anybody from Seattle, you if you listening, what's up? Um, yeah, kind of coming from that, approach, you just kind of learn and understand that it's not just all black and white,
Hmm.
right? Human beings, and their behavior aren't just simply black and white, right? To be a human is to just be enmeshed in everything, right? Like one basic thing we kind of learn is that, being in the world, right? Call it Dasein. What that means is that to be human is literally inextricably linked to being a part of the world, right? Um, like a little thought experiment, for example. Would you know if you were alive if nothing else existed around you,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
You need something to reflect back to you that you are alive. That's who other people are. That's what the world is. The thing that reflects back to us that we are something, right? We are separate. In that regard, you can also then apply that to folks' experiences and their past, right? Whom they are can't just be, oh, it's because, they had an avoidant attachment style. And I was like, well, no, like they are a mix of all those attachments, sure, an avoidant, but also the relationship that they had, right? That maybe did not go well in some way. Some people maybe that even challenged their avoidance. So it's a mix of all those that's happening, right? Um, and just being curious and as to how did this enmeshment of things kind of just culminate into this human being that's in front of me. Right. So yes, I have the background of all these different theories and whatnot that we learned and everything, but also kind of understanding that this person is a very unique individual, right? And to not to reduce them to just simply a bunch of theories or whatnot that you might have learned in school or read in like a research article and whatnot, right? Again, just simply being curious, and if something maybe lights up, like, oh, that kind of seems like it might be maybe a little anxiety kind of showing up there, right? Let's follow that trail and see, is it anxiety, right? And as you're asking the client questions and you're being curious about it, if it is, I say, well, no, actually, it might be one of these, like, oh, okay. And it might kind of pivot maybe towards something that's looking more maybe like depression, right? Again, maybe,
Yeah.
because I can't say with definitive. Yep, you match all the 3 out of 5 criteria for depression as a DSM says. So
Got the checklist
you know what
out
I'm
and
saying? Like just
everything.
walking that, check,
Uh-huh.
check. No, like, this person isn't thinking about, has it been 6 months since I felt sad?
Hmm.
Maybe I have met the criteria for depression. It's not what a human being is. So
Hmm.
just recognizing, right? Like and there's a beauty in that. I think that's what makes life so much worth, one living, but also human beings so just awesome and unique. It's like everybody's their own like unique theory, if you want to say it like that, and just be
Yeah.
curious about that, what's going on, and the things that they've experienced that influence their worldview.
Shoot, as I'm listening to you and thinking about the expert and the human, it's
Mm.
like through what I'm hearing you say is like through you showing your humanity
Hmm.
subsequently shows how much of an expert you are in the space.
It's ironic, isn't it? It's like
Mm.
the less I try to be, the more I am seen as.
Yeah. Mm.
Mm.
Coming away from the therapy space just a little bit,
Sure.
becoming a therapist, was that always the dream for you?
No, I'm just picturing myself being 5, like, man, I can't wait to sit in a chair and just listen to people talk about their problems or what's going on. Nah, nah. So growing up, I had always, oh yeah, please. I had always enjoyed, people watching. Um, really just found it fascinating, right? The things that just made people do the things that they did, right? Or act the way that they did. So like,
Mm.
you know, watching somebody maybe having a conversation with someone and then you just judge by the body language. And again, maybe I couldn't hear the conversation, but I could see it happening, right? Seeing the body language, maybe sometimes I hear like, the sound of their conversation go up, go down, right? So somebody's getting pretty animated in there. And then that happens, right? Maybe one person leaves and the person, just sitting down, maybe just a frown on their face and whatnot. And then, an innocent, unsuspecting person then comes in and begins to interact with this person. And all of a sudden it just easily escalates. It's like, whoa, what happened? Next thing you know, everybody's like, whoa, what's going on? And I'm like, I saw what happened.
Mm.
I seen what happened. I was like, that was so fascinating, right? Like, yeah, people watching is like nature's reality TV show, man.
Totally.
I'm saying, why would I pay for that? It's right there.
Just go
So,
outside and sit on a
you
bench.
know what I'm saying? Just chill. Let's just live whatever happen. It's a free TV we're living in right here. Um, but that always been something I was just curious about, like really, really into. And another thing too, growing up was that when I'm just sitting there again, doing my people watching, somebody will always kind of come and sit next to me. And next thing you know, they're like, we're talking, blah, blah, what have you. Like, hey, what's up, blah, blah. Next thing you know, they're like telling me about what's going on in their personal life. I'm
Mm,
like, bro, why are you telling me this? I don't know you. Like, what's going on? But the weird thing is that I wouldn't really, say anything as they were talking, but always right after they were done, I would feel almost like something kind of coming within me, like that kind of prompted me to like say something back
mm.
as a response to what they've just said.
As a reflection of the world around them.
Yeah.
Oh.
And in some ways too, like I always found it odd that literally as people were talking, they would literally, mention the problem, but then also mention the solution. But they could never pick up on that. I'm like, bro, you literally just said what the issue is and what you can do about it. So that's what I would just be reflecting back to them, if you want to call it that. And they're like, oh, I never thought of that. I'm like, you said it. I'm just saying what you said. Like I didn't come up with that or fix that for you. You just said it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't realize. Thank you. Then one time, and this happened in middle school, right? Because this is something that kept happening in middle school. I just asked him, like, why did you feel like, coming and telling me all this? I was like, no, you just seem like, got a cool vibe around you. Like,
Mm. You
yeah.
do have that cool vibe around you.
People say that, and I'm like, what are y'all talking about? I don't know. I'm just chilling, bro. Like,
Mm,
but yeah, it was like they would call it like they're not inviting aura. It just seemed like you were chill. So yeah, and thank you for telling me about that. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, you're welcome. Now go back to my cheeseburger. But growing up, uh, as an African kid, right? There's only three things you can be growing up. You have to be a lawyer, a
mm,
doctor, or an
mm,
engineer.
mm.
So in high school, I thought I was gonna be a doctor. So we had this track pretty much in high school called like health fields or health sciences, I forget. Oh no, health careers. So if you were somebody, who was in like the health careers field, they would have like certain classes they'll recommend that you take. Right. So I was like, okay, cool. So I took a bunch of like biology, health, health education, all that stuff classes. So yeah, in high school, I thought I was gonna go probably it's like pre med or something. And then, sorry, it's always funny. And then my friend at the time, you know, he was like, "Yo, Kelvin, have you heard about this class called AP Psychology?" I'm like, "No, what is that?" So him and I, and this is a dude I've known since like freshman year, my best friend, um, who's also a therapist now. Anyway, when I'm not gonna say it because some of my clients might be watching. Anyway, let's just say when we're doing high school, I'm saying cool kid stuff, usually like, um
What
I
were these cool kid things, man?
I can't talk about it, man.
All right, all right.
I forget it. I'll
You
just do it.
choose. You choose.
No, I was like, like smoke a little bit or whatever.
Yeah,
We would
yeah.
just, get into like conversations, right, about just life and all that stuff. Because he was really into like, Buddhism and Eastern philosophy and stuff at the time. So, we would just kind of have those conversations when we're high. And I want to say it was either junior or senior. I can't recall. Anyway, he was like, "Yo, there's this guy named Freud. You heard about him?" I'm like,
Mm,
"No." So we just started talking about Freud a little bit, right? Hearing about all these like crazy theories and stuff that he had about like, Oedipus complex, Electra complex and stuff, right? I'm like,
classic Freud.
what I'm saying? I'm like, and again, we were high school kids. We didn't know, but we were like, I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting. I never thought of that, but I could see how that could be a thing. Like, yeah, for sure. It's like, well, yeah, and there's this class called AP Psychology. Do you want to check it out? I'm
Mm,
like, yeah, sure, whatever. At the time, again, I was like, I'm probably gonna be pre med. I mean, whatever. I don't mind taking this class. So I end up
mm.
taking it, and I recall the first day, right? We were kind of going through just like, the textbook, the different theories, the different, pioneers in psychology and stuff like that, what they talked about, the things that they were studying. And I was like, holy shit. Because I turned back and looked at my friend, and he was literally looking at me. In that instance, we could just tell, like, we didn't have to say anything, we could just tell, like, yo, this is the shit we be talking about when we're high. What the fuck? And there's a whole like field of this shit. What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I love that so much.
So yeah, that's how got into psychology, became a therapist. I went to undergrad, studied psychology, and I got a master's in it as well too. And he also did undergrad in psychology, and he's also a therapist now over in Colorado. So yeah.
I'm convinced that many psychological theories and therapy modalities come from high conversations about life, right? I can't
I
tell you
agree.
how many times I've I've smoked and had just really big revelations about life.
Hmm.
It's just part of it. And like psychology is that type of field, you know?
That's where the hippies are.
Right.
That's real. That's real.
That's good. Thanks for being honest about that. I'm sure people
Yeah.
out there listening are appreciative.
Yeah, man. No, we're grown. It is what it is. It's cool.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I know my my story I feel like is so similar in like the expectations from family around me of like for me too, doctor or lawyer.
Mm.
Engineer would have been cool, but I think my parents knew I wasn't smart enough to do that stuff. But doctor, lawyer, and I remember I was dedicated. I was just talking about this in my own therapy
Mm.
yesterday. I was
Mm.
dedicated to the craft of learning how to be
Mm.
a doctor and on the med track up until like first half of sophomore year of college.
Mm.
And then on the surface, I'm like, yeah, what kicked me out of the pre-med track was calculus.
Oh yeah.
Hated that class. I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
How's this gonna impact
Mm-hmm.
me being a doctor one day? Anyways, lowest grade I've ever gotten,
Mm.
and that's why I'm in therapy. Oh, but I had wonderful advisors, I think, and
Mm.
my advisor, Melissa Rogers, was always just pushing me to really see what I've been saying, like what you're saying about clients,
Mm.
where I was telling her a ton about I just want to be with people,
Mm.
know their story, and help them.
Right.
But my narrative of how to do that was I'll do it like in a hospital as a
Mm.
doctor, right?
Mm.
And she'd be like, "Okay, yeah, we'll sign you up for this class. We'll sign you up for biology." And I don't know if that's what I'm actually hearing that you want to do.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, no, this is what I want to do. And it was just
Mm.
multiple conversations of her being relentless and telling me, like, okay, we'll
Mm.
sign you up for what you want
Yeah.
or what you say you want. And
Mm-hmm.
what I'm hearing is maybe you want to shift this way. So, like, a lot of gentle nudges until
Mm-hmm.
finally I was like, oh man, this whole time I wanted to just like do this
Yeah.
therapy thing. I've never talked about it in my family, but this just
Mm-hmm.
seems so right. She was like,
Mm.
"Oh, you came to that yourself." Yeah. I was like,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
right. I was like, I did. Wow, I feel so empowered. I don't know what you were doing. But I really do give it up to her and a ton of my like mentors and advisors in college for really pushing me. I mean, I
Mm.
loved every one of them, and I think just the empowerment along the way to be like, this is you. Like
Mm-hmm.
even how I know you beyond what you're saying, like this is perfect for you. And I mean, now some years later, I can say I'm living my dream every single
Yeah.
day, and
There you
it's so
go.
cool. It's so cool.
There you go.
For you, I was reading on your website, right,
Mm.
as I was doing my research,
Mm.
that you grew up in Ghana.
Yeah.
What was it like, or what was it like to immigrate here, and where do you see the cultural differences?
Um, so what was it like migrating here? First off, so Ghana is a country that one is very, warm and tropical, right? Um, Maybe temperatures range from like 77 to like 80, 90 degrees year
Mm,
round, right? We only, we say only have only two seasons, rainy or dry,
mm,
right? So part of the year it rains a lot, part of the year it doesn't rain a lot and it's dry,
mm,
right? So I was there until I was like 11 years old, right? So moving from that type of, just environment to Minneapolis, Minnesota
Mm.
in November
Oh man.
was not something that I thought I would ever experience in my life. Um, yeah, that was tough, bro.
What
I,
was tough about it?
it was cold as hell. What the hell? Like, I remember literally as soon as I like, we got there and I got off the plane, I'm like, what the fuck? People live here? It was cold,
Oh
bro.
man.
And again, I didn't have a jacket or nothing. I forget what I was wearing, some sort of like suit or something. My mom was like trying to get us a dress all nice and shit. So I think it was I was wearing like a little suit or something. I'm like, I was coming to America type shit, and it's just like, yeah, nah, this ain't this is gonna be a no for me, though. I literally turned around trying to go back and I'm playing with my girl, like, where you going? I'm like, not here. What the fuck? No, take me back. I don't want to be here. Like, no, we're here now. We're not going anywhere. I'm like, ah, shit. So that was tough.
Mm.
But coming here, I think America was the first place where I learned what a mental illness is. Um, it's different over here. Like in terms of the sense of, I want to say almost like connection, values, and community being one of those values as well, right? So again, coming here and having learned about the field of psychology, right, and everything, definitely helped me to maybe make some connection to some things that I saw growing up in Ghana in terms of people, right? Like it wasn't uncommon sometimes where you see, maybe in the market, right, somebody who looked very disheveled. I'm gonna say that. Sometimes where he's just staring up at the sun, or like we'll say, this person is like mad if you want to like describe it in that way, right? Or a literal translation of the word, but um, there was still that sense of community, right? With that, like this person, even though sure it might have been, maybe homeless, looking like crazy, whatever, people would still give him food, right, in the market, right? People, want to make jokes about him, making jokes with him. They knew his name and everything like that. There was still that sense of like, yeah, you're kind of crazy, and we're not gonna sleep in my house, but when you're here, we take care of you, right? And I think for me, when I'm learning and just had learned, especially in high school, in grad school, was that sense of community truly does act as a buffer towards like, just I would say like falling from like, how do I describe it as? Because I see mental illness as just like a response to that sense of like isolation and loneliness from the human family, right? In America being a country, I think that um, emphasizes the sense of individuality. I don't know, man. I think it kind of opens up the space for people to develop something that might look like a mental illness, right? Depression is like a loneliness from not being seen, right? What I believe. Um, and again, not saying Ghana didn't have folks without mental illness, right? But and again, it could also just be because maybe folks didn't really know what it is, or over here it's a bigger population. Maybe people, it's much more like pronounced or whatever. People actually recognize it and talk about it a lot more. But yeah, like the question, the thing that I just remember thinking about it. Yeah, it's no wonder mental illness is such a huge problem here because people are so lonely,
Mm.
right? Having being seen and having that sense of community, being part of the human family
Wow.
is like a buffer, I believe, towards that sense of like malaise, right? That issue or that, problem that human beings face, right?
Wow.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, when you are cut and you bleed, that's a sign that something is wrong with your physical body. You need to pay attention to it. When you have a mental illness or, mental disorder, that's a sign that psychologically and also spiritually something is wrong and you need to pay attention to it. It's how it's that quote unquote issue or that lack is manifesting, right, within the human experience. Like, yo, something's up. Like anxiety is like, yo, like are we safe? Is everything good? You pay attention to it because we don't feel safe, right? That's your like your That's like your mind, your subconscious telling you something is wrong. We don't feel safe. Pay attention to it, and it manifests. And just as beliefs of like looking around, right? Increased heart rates, what have you. Like that sense of like, I'm not good. It's because it's spiritually you're being told or believe that you're not safe,
Mm.
right? And if you have a sense of community that says, no, we got your back, that alleviates that sense of anxiety.
Yeah, like community as a healing factor.
Absolutely.
Wow. Wow, I love the way you're portraying that. It really is hitting my heart because I feel like in the way that I conduct therapy too, it's very relationship based between me and client and like all the systems in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And often when clients are able to reconnect with these systems or important people or
Mm-hmm.
build this system, this family system for themselves, a lot of their issues go away.
Yeah.
If we want to use that word.
Right.
Right? And you're saying that when you came over here, there was a sense that you noticed that so many people were lacking
Mm-hmm.
in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, like it was strange to me how it didn't feel like we're all in this together, right? In Ghana, even though there are many different ethnic groups, I want to call them tribes, whatever, and we have our own version of preferences of other people over others, right? Call that tribalism. um there's still at the end of the day a sense of like we are all Ghanaians, right? Like we have different regions. I don't know how many regions we have in Ghana now. When I was growing up, it was 10. Last I heard, it's like 16 now. But anyway, when you go into a region, like there's a predominant ethnic group that's there. So like okay, the Volta region is like the Ewa people, the Ashanti region is like the Ashanti people, Central region might be the Fanti people, right? So it's like these people are there, right? So you kind of have to like, you can't go in there as an Ashanti expecting the Ewa people to speak your language or do your custom, your culture. It's like you're in somebody else's territory, so you got to respect, right? But also at the end of the day, we all kind of have this sense of like this is our country, right? Like
Mm.
it's all of us, making it, working together, right? And respecting each other's, different regions, different customs. Again, it'd be weird for me as a again, I'm from the central region, so Fanti, to go to maybe the northern region, which is more of like the I forget what those folks are, but they're
Yeah.
Muslim and whatnot, right? So that's their space. We go there and ask them why they don't have my food over there. Be like, what are you talking about? You're in our house. What are you talking about? But
Yeah.
also at the same time, like, I don't know how or why how we do it, but there's just a collectivism of like, at the end of we are all Ghanaians,
Mm.
right? And there's just that mutual respect that folks have for each other, and also there's a lot of, one, intermarriage, but also two, it's not uncommon growing up for a kid to like know like 5 to 6 different languages because we all grow up kind of playing around each other, right? So yeah,
Mm.
there's just that sense of just collectivism and that connection that I find over here in America. I'll be telling people, man, America has probably the greatest potential out of in all civilization, human civilization so far. Like there have been only a few civilizations that have had the similar profile as America, and these civilizations have always been great. There was Egypt, and then there was Rome. There's a reason why we still talk about these civilizations because of what they are able to achieve and accomplish. But that was because there was such a diverse population.
Mm.
That was all kind of like different groups of people in one place can make something so great. And America has that same potential, but I think because of the values of individualism and passive racism and whatnot, it prevents it from truly being what it can possibly be. Like some of the greatest inventors here are not white people.
Yeah. Right.
Like let's keep it a buck. Like, and even like right now we're saying like with the climate, the current technological climate we're living in, the founders and creators of these different startups and whatnot are not white men. They're usually people from like all different different regions of the world. Einstein is not American, but we boast about Einstein being here, right? The people who created the atomic bomb, and I know it's controversial, it wasn't just a bunch of white men. It was people from like different places of the world that were all here.
Right.
So when people come together from different places with different perspectives, they can create amazing things.
Hmm.
But again, it's different out here in terms of values, right?
Totally.
I believe it kind of prevents that true potential from coming out.
Mm. Wow. Yeah, as you were talking, I was just drawing cultural comparisons to to everything you were saying, and how like at the end of the day, everyone's so proud of their country,
Mm-hmm.
and calls themselves as such, despite the different regions.
Mm-hmm.
And here, you go state to state, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like there's this almost expectation that people follow what you got going on, or
Mm-hmm.
you follow your take on life, and
Mm-hmm.
it's leading to like a lot more of that isolation or separation, where we could have beautiful things come out if we came together more.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find in the therapy space, how is it for you to encounter a client who maybe sees the world very differently than you?
Mm.
Do you find it hard to carry that same level of curiosity?
Because not really thinking, have I met someone who carries? I think for me, I and for some clients, maybe it's easier because we have that shared, we have some shared perspective and whatnot. But for the ones who have maybe such a different perspective, again I just approach it actually with just I don't know, right? Like if you are so different, I want you to show me. I want you to show me who you are, right? I want you to tell me about yourself. Um, and it's just in my perspective, just creating that space to allow folks to just reveal themselves, right? That's what our job is. Um, if there's something that's different, I'm like, okay, I personally wouldn't do that, or I personally don't believe that, but it sounds like you believe it. Um, and what is it doing for you,
I
right?
love that question.
What is it doing for you? And just help me understand like what you get from this. And again, oddly, when you approach people that way, it builds that sense of trust. It builds a sense of, oh, okay, you're not judging me. You're not judging what I'm doing, or how I see things is, bad or good immediately. Okay, sure. Let me tell you. And again, that builds that sense of trust where if maybe there is something that, you as a therapist, again, it might be coming from like a different perspective, would like to offer or share, folks will be a lot more receptive to maybe understanding hearing you, right?
Mm,
Because you can't necessarily either change, communicate, or try to, impart something new to someone unless you've understood where they're coming from and why they do what they do. Um, so I keep that in mind when I, maybe see someone. I'm like, okay, again, I wouldn't do that, or I don't personally believe that, but I hear you. Okay, cool.
yeah. I think that openness is what I'm
Mm-hmm.
hearing you say. Like that comes with all that power in the room for the client to be like, oh, yeah, this person's actually willing to hear me out here and not seeing
Mm-hmm.
me as or judging me as someone like who has these crazy issues or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
might be. And like when we can do that and slow our own processes down, even if it's something, I guess in my own experience, like even if it's something so far away from what I believe, like try to find my care for this client still to help them,
Mm-hmm.
it can lead to so much revelation for the client,
Right.
which is transformative.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you how many times, questions like what you're asking and like questions of, I hear what you're saying and I can accept that that's the truth for you. And
Mm-hmm.
is that what you want in your life? Can
Mm-hmm.
be is like how many times I've asked that to clients and they're like, oh, nobody's ever asked me like, is that what I want? I've never really asked myself that. It's just what I have been doing or what my parents have
Mm-hmm.
wanted for me or what my partner has wanted for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm actually not sure if that's what I want.
Right.
And if our rapport is really good, I'm like, then why do you keep doing it, cousin? What do I, you know what I'm saying? Like,
There you go.
or more therapeutically, like, so what's leading you to keep, living the way you're doing?
Be professional about it. Yeah.
Right. And yeah, just that openness, I feel like speaks volumes in the therapy space.
Hmm.
Yeah. How do we therapists, we see so many clients.
Hmm.
In a week, we have so many clients on our caseload.
Hmm.
How do you find yourself being able to work in the way you've described today, like consistently across the board?
Um, Man, that's a good question. Um, I think just being aware of my bandwidth,
Mm,
right? Um, just because I too am a person, right? Not just simply a therapist. So what happens outside of therapy is also important for me, right? When I'm not being a therapist, I mean. So intentionally trying to take up, that space for myself, or that be, engage in activities that literally have nothing to do with me being a therapist. I will confess right now that's not so much the case because I have a lot of other things that I'm doing, like I was in the background of other pursuits or endeavors. So I'm actually a little busy even post, my days of working as a therapist. I mean, doing meetings and emails and stuff like that.
wow. You mind if I ask what you've been busy with?
So
If we could be real.
whatever, I like that. I like that. So I can't go too much into detail, right?
Oh, okay.
But
Confidential, confidential.
what I am doing is trying to create a network of BIPOC therapists right now, right? And um trying to just connect folks to uh when they are ready to actually engage in that work, right? And to just have that space to be able to explore their own mental well-being, right? And have someone who is culturally competent, whom they feel can understand, their experiences, whether that be culturally, identity wise, right? What have you. Um, yeah, they're able to find that person, right? So that's just something that I've kind of got, going in the works right now.
Wow.
And, um, you know, again, just building these relationships and connections with folks, and again, just trying to be that bridge, right, to connect
Mm,
folks, when they are ready again to engage in the work. So yeah, that requires work, right, to do, and
mm,
that requires, again, being able to build trustworthy relationships with not only providers but also folks in the community, because truthfully, the history of this country when it comes to healthcare has not always been, the most for lack of a better, most nicest when it comes to people of color. Right. So
totally.
obviously there just is a an understandable level of mistrust when it comes to healthcare, right, in this country. So yeah, what can we do to kind of meet people where they're at, right? Understand, their just suspicions about the whole thing, and trying to help assure and again build that level of trust. So
Powerful stuff, man.
requires work, yeah.
Yeah, it requires a lot of work. And thank you
Hmm.
for doing that work. I mean, for uh as long as I've known you, which feels like a good chunk of time now,
Yeah, it's been a while. Been
I'm
a
glad.
while.
You really invest a lot of your time in these community events.
Yeah.
And it feels really important, like you're saying, just as healthcare hasn't always been the most inclusive or accessible.
Hmm.
You're putting a lot of your extra time and energy into making that happen for a lot of people who, and maybe mental health work has just been an afterthought in their life or something that they haven't really engaged with at all or know much about.
Hmm.
Like these community events and what you're saying about this community of BIPOC therapists and putting that together
Hmm.
drops the barriers for people to allow. I mean, to allow people to
Hmm.
have that access and knowledge. I think that's really powerful stuff and very inspiring.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And part of what I want this podcast to be too, just another resource for people in the community to be like, oh, I really know this person.
Hmm.
Um, for your clients now who might be listening, what do you feel like? This might be a really broad question, but what do you feel like you'd want them to know about you?
Yeah, if you see me on the community, I'm not gonna say hi to you first. You know what I'm saying? But no, feel free to come say hi. What I want them to know about me.
Mm,
Yeah, I'm I'm just a regular person, man. And honestly, you know, looking at just the underlying philosophy even of this work, right? It's a human to human thing, right? Even when you're just walking down the street, and I would advise and even share this with folks, and I know maybe I'm pivoting it off of me a little bit, but
mm,
Seattle and the Seattle freeze, right? Even this idea of, saying hi to people, right, when you're walking down the street in itself is therapeutic because you're being seen by another human being, right? So I might say that people do that, but I would hardly believe in just the human connection, right? That at the end of the day, before we even gave each other the title of, therapist, right? That we were already doing therapy by just simply being human with each other. So I'm just a human just like you. And I'm just a human who maybe might have more curiosity than the other average human being, right? Not saying to come do therapy with me after outside of therapy, but what I who I am is just a normal person, right? Just like you.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're hearing it here first. If you see Kelvin sitting on a bench out there, people watching,
That-
sit next to him,
You know what?
ask him the questions.
If you wanna people watch with me, we can do that. But don't ask me questions. Yeah.
Oh man. I think from the day I met you, you've
Mm,
always came off as someone who's confident and pretty charismatic and
mm,
like very attuned to self.
mm,
As we talked about a little bit ago, your public speaking ventures and like being on the
mm,
show, how have you grown and like what have you done to grow in your own personal confidence?
mm. I think kind of recognizing, accepting that life is growth,
Mm,
right? That it is one of the underlying foundations or reasons for our existence is to grow. There's a reason why we're not babies after time passes, still 30 years later. It's because we're supposed to grow. Like, I'll definitely share that I think after graduating from, grad school and finally achieving um, the accomplishment of becoming a therapist. I just kept asking myself, okay, like, is this all I'm supposed to then do for like from now on? Like, it felt like I kind of plateaued because I reflected on it, and some of the most exciting, fun, enjoyable times of my life was graduate school. And that was because I was actually learning things, right? Like making connections to things, right? Like what I would learn in class, I would then kind of see happening in the real world outside of class, right? And just be curious about it. Like, in grad school, after classes, going to a bar, for example, and just, the same very like perspective or lens that I had learned about human interaction, try to, bring that into a conversation at a bar. And it's just seeing how easily people would just start talking to strangers, right? Again, I don't know if it was a bar and people were just maybe drunk or whatever.
mm.
But even, outside of those spaces, right? Like at a coffee shop, for example, right? Like turning a lens of like, I'm curious about you, right? Like, tell me more. And how people would just be naturally receptive to it. And that how naturally led to, building relationships with folks, right? And even as we're talking, be like, oh yeah, I remember anxiety, oh no, attachment, oh, all that stuff. And like those connections. Dang, now I'm thinking about it, I think I was doing therapy outside of
Not
outside
even
of
getting paid for it.
right.
Yeah.
But ultimately I like that stuff. Like I like
Yeah.
writing papers. I love, there being like a general question of how do we solve this problem? Or what do you think about this after reading this? And then, writing a paper about it. It was getting to exercise my own thoughts, my own, like, intellectual prowess and whatnot. And I felt like I was growing, right? Every class, from like, from the fall class at the beginning, survey courses to then more like nuanced, specialized like classes and stuff like that, being asked to offer your opinions about things. Yeah, I was growing. And then after I was done, I feel like, ta-da, you now have the certificate. I'm like, okay, now
Mm.
what? And it was just silence. And I think for me, then what I've come to now realize is that this stuff that I'm doing, right, whether that be, creating this BIPOC network or even doing public speaking, is the next step, right? Is the next growth for me, right? Like, because, yeah, you can sure sit there and, be a therapist and whatnot. But I'm going to tell you this, after being a therapist now for, was it 8 years? You just start to see patterns, right? Like people kind of coming in similar, not literally saying the same, but like similar, experiences, similar reasons, and what's going on. And again, not saying this about my clients. You guys are great, and everybody else, but you can tend to get bored a little bit, right?
Yeah,
It's
it's
like,
human.
right? It is, yeah. It's absolutely human. It's natural, but it's like, and that boredom right there, that boredom tells you is a sign that you need to be doing something,
Mm.
right? It's a sign either from like spirit, subconscious, whatever have you, that you need to be doing something because you're not liking it. It's like, okay, it's kind of like what we tell kids, right? If you're bored, go outside and go play,
Right.
right? Or just lie down and just think thoughts, right? Because you need activity, you need to do something. So
I
for
love
me,
that thought of even if the emotion is boredom, whatever the emotion is, there's
hmm
some sort of utility or message from the psyche or the spirit or whatever you want to call it that's calling you to do something with your life
hmm
or calling you to live more into your purpose or
hmm
whatever it might be.
exactly. And so I think for me, that's what maybe that boredom was, right? It was like a calling or a message that you need to be doing more.
Mm.
And doing something like this, for example, or doing the public speaking is kind of what enriches me. Like I know that when I'm done, and I recently just did a speaking engagement. It's so weird to say, at a conference in Hawaii.
Wow.
Um, After I was done, I was like, oh, that was fun,
Mm.
right? I enjoyed giving that presentation, and to this day, I actually have folks who are reaching out like, "Oh my God, thank you so much for sharing that." I'm like, "Oh, you're welcome. I didn't think it was that big a deal." Because again, I'm used to this stuff, but
Mm.
I
This
was
common for you is what you're saying.
right, right. But I'm offering a perspective that's maybe uncommon for someone,
Mm.
and that for me is very validating to keep going, right, and keep doing it. So naturally, yeah, if you're bored, that's a message that yeah, go find something to do.
Mm. When you find yourself, I don't think this is what you're saying at all, but if you find yourself bored actively in session,
Mm,
client who they might be caught up in the story of what's going on in their life and you've
mhm,
heard it before or the patterns kind of coming out for you, how
mhm.
do you reground yourself?
Remember that no, this person truly is someone I've never met before.
Mm.
And am I missing something if I'm bored? Right. Like I have had, clients where I have experienced that I'm like, oh, reflecting on it, I was feeling bored because maybe there was something about this experience that they were sharing that I maybe have not read about. I'm not, excuse me, I'm not curious enough about or don't know. And I need to maybe go read up on it. Like right now, I'm reading up on grief, right? And I'm not saying that I'm bored with grief,
Yeah.
but I'm saying that there are certain parts of stories that I hear that I feel like my mind like the image I can bring up is like, it's like almost like a heart monitor, right? It's like there's activity like beep, 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 and then we get to a point it's like beep. I feel like, oh shoot, like why do my attention kind of tune out from there? It's like, oh, have I heard this before? And if so, no, because this person is not literally the same person. What's missing?
Mm.
Be curious about what's missing right there. And it's like, okay, what's missing is because I don't know much about this thing. So my brain just, or my curiosity was like, I don't know too much about it. I'm going to just come back in when they say something I already know about or I find interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
how I kind of, just understand that. It's like, no, we should keep on still be going like this. And naturally, human attention, you're not saying, that you can be tuned in all 50 minutes in session, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it naturally just happens. Like, the mind just gets tired, like, yo, let me take a break real quick and I'll jump back in. And saying this like, therapist, right? It's okay. Sometimes you might tune out because you can only keep maintaining concentration for so long. Just pivot yourself back when you catch yourself maybe slowly drifting or something like that. And it's okay. And then be curious about that drift when it happened, right? Or what was going on perhaps
Totally.
that led to that drift in the story.
And when I hear when I said interesting earlier to what you were saying of that part that comes up, that's like maybe I don't know too much about this, so I might tune out. For me, I said interesting because I think about my own process, and often when I feel like I'm tuning out or I'm feeling overwhelmed, is when I'm like, similarly, I guess I just don't know what to say in response to this.
Mm,
Oh, this is so much for them, and I could tell how overwhelming this cycle is that they're falling into, or this
mhm,
this thing that happened to them. And it's overwhelming for me too because I'm almost taking. I want to feel what they're feeling. I'm like,
mhm,
God, I don't know what to do here,
mhm,
and then I just like lose track of what they're saying. And like you were saying earlier, just the power of coming back to it and being like, even just, oh man, I think I missed something here,
yeah,
and I want to get your experience, and I feel like I tuned out. Can be, and often clients are like, they're not gonna be like, what the fuck, dude, you're not listening to
yeah.
me, you know what I mean? They're like,
Right.
yeah, let me help you get it. And
Mhm,
then we get it, and then it comes back to be therapeutic.
mhm,
And I love what you're saying about attention too. In my first interview with Ian, he was talking about how attention's so different across sessions and how normal that is.
mhm,
And I hear you saying the same thing. Even in the same session,
yeah,
you can be so attentive for the first 25, have
mhm,
5 minutes of like, what the hell's going on,
yeah,
and then try to build that back. And like, that's okay.
yeah,
That feels empowering for me to hear. So thank you for saying that.
yeah. Of course, of course.
Yeah. I feel like so often in my experience, I want to be able again to provide that service the client is seeking. And I
Mm,
get so caught up in that I miss out on so many important things that happen in the space.
mm.
Does that or something like that ever happen for you? And how do you manage that?
You said, and I want to make sure I want to get that question again.
Yeah.
Can you repeat it again?
Yeah, totally. I just feel like in my own experience, I get kind of caught up in the weeds sometime of trying to get the client from point A to point B that I miss something
Mm,
in between.
hmm.
And I wonder if that happens to you.
Yeah, no, all the time. Um, again, clients sometimes kind of come in with a certain, expectation, like, hey, I need you to help me get from A to B,
Mhm.
right? And how are we going to do that? And, in the intake, I do ask folks, what their goals are in therapy. Um, so yeah, that does happen. And I think um, that's something that I've had some clients too kind of teach me where that sense of urgency to get from A to B is not what they are needing or looking for or wanting to hear,
Mhm.
right? So when I have those clients where obviously naturally what that manifests as is that tension then of like me trying to pull them and like, no, I don't want to go, right? And again, I love that, some clients are able to like resist that, like, no, I'm not gonna go, right? That serves a reminder, like, oh, hold on, I'm doing something, you know, I won't say wrong, but something out of sync here. Um, and those clients have taught me to just learn to ride the wave, right? Learn to just simply be present and be at ease and not feel like I always need to. Because if client says like, okay, I want to go. It's like, okay, all right, let's walk. It's time to go to B then, right? So trying to go, you know, at the client's pace. And then sometimes too, even I'm sharing, if you kind of get to the place where you are bored, sometimes that boredom is because we've just kind of been ruminating in that same space.
Uh,
And as a therapist, you can kind of call that out, like, I've heard us really keep talking about this. And it feels like, we're going around, maybe not say it professionally how you would say it, right?
sure.
I'm just saying for the sake of I got the hoodie and I don't have my professionals of, but it's like we're going around in circles here. Like I just feel like I need to call that out. What's going on? Again, that's the human to human thing that's happening. I'm a human being and I get bored. And
Hmm.
it feels like we've been going around in circles here. I want to call it out. Um, what's going on? Like, why are we? I'm feeling bored. Are you bored? It's like
Yeah.
oftentimes you're like, dang, you caught me. It's like, yeah, and again, if you built that trust, clients will be like, okay, yeah, I actually didn't notice. Sometimes they don't know that, right? Like, I actually didn't notice that. Yeah, we have been talking about this for like, yeah. Are we afraid of B?
Mm.
Are we avoiding B? What's going on here? It's like, maybe. Okay, what are you afraid of at B?
Hmm. Oh, the power of the present process, man.
Ooh.
Yeah. And it's like, even as you're talking, I'm just thinking about how often clients are having their own experience in the room. Often they're also very anxious or bored or whatever it might be coming up. And they just feel like
Mm,
they have to stay on this. Oh, let me tell this person everything. That's why I'm here.
mm, mm,
And like that's great and tell me it all. And um, there is power in just pointing that out. Even in this very human way, like when I'm talking professional jargon to my clients, I watch their eyes kind of go like, all right, I have no idea what this guy's even talking about. I'm a zone out here.
uh-huh.
And like if I could just be like, hey, something just happened between us, very
Mm-hmm.
human, like we're talking right now. Often
Mm-hmm.
that's where the therapeutic process actually happens. Where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, this is a human to human conversation. This is what I wanted, even if I didn't know this is what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Like could lead to very valuable conversations, like you're saying.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
My brain really wants to jump to this thought that I've been having since the beginning of the of our show today, and it just feels like non in this wave of our conversation. But it's my podcast, so I'm gonna do it anyways.
There you go.
One time when we were at a coffee shop, you had mentioned
Mm.
having your window open and then overhearing an argument that one of your neighbors were having, just like
Mm.
this bickering going back and forth.
Yeah.
um and like this gets into like the people watching, this gets into
Uh-huh.
like your role outside of the room.
Mm-hmm.
um if you could go back to that moment, if you remember even,
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
um what were you thinking? How do you deal with that? How do you not be like, hey, maybe we should talk to each other like this? Like, what do you remember feeling in that moment?
Oh man, yeah. And you know what's funny? They've I think they've kind of toned it down. Then I don't hear them arguing as much, and I think it's
Oh.
because not me, somebody else called him out on it. One of the neighbors was like, "Shut the fuck up."
Would y'all shut the fuck up?
Yeah, pretty much.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I think that kind of got sent the message, right?
Mm.
Because where I live, it's not just a bunch of single folks and whatnot. We got families there. Right, we have kids that I hear running up and down the hallways and stuff like that. Sometimes I hear babies crying, right? So it's for me, if I'm to, kind of even like translate through the lens, right? It was other human beings reflecting back to them, hey, your actions are impacting us.
Mm.
Because prior to that, it had been going on for a long time and nobody was saying anything, right? Like they would be sometimes arguing at 2 in the morning,
Wow.
like
Yeah.
yelling like it's daytime, and nobody was saying anything. Sometimes maybe you hear like windows kind of like slamming stuff like because people are just like, oh, here we go. It was summertime and it was hot. People have the windows open, but
Hmm.
this time they're closing it because they don't want to hear that. Until one day somebody said, reflected back to them, yo, stop. Like, no, enough, right? And I think that sent a message to them like, oh, there are other people outside of our interaction that we're having and it's affecting them and they push back, right? Again, I would say similar in the therapy room as well. right?
Yeah.
That's human. So again, that pushback sends a message that, oh, you have the power to impact other people by what you do, right? Something to keep in mind and just be aware of. So yeah, shout out to that neighbor that said something, because man, I was this close to actually say something. Then they beat me to it. So
uh,
yeah.
Took that pressure off of you.
I gotta be calm, man. I'm a therapist. You know what I'm
Right. We're all so calm. Yeah. I asked that question very strategically because for
saying?
the guests who weren't in our coffee shop date conversation,
Mm-hmm.
Kelvin told me, I don't know how you work with couples. I just can't do it. So I asked him this question of how he'd go about doing this to show him that he'd be perfectly fine as a couples therapist.
No,
And like
dude.
what he's saying here is exactly what couples therapy is. Like me in the room saying, would y'all just shut the fuck up? To my couples who might be listening to this, you've heard me say it before in some professional way. But yeah, people just get so caught up in the moment, and like I get it, want to
Mhm,
feel heard so bad. But it's like if
mhm,
you could be this person that's like says the version of shut the fuck up, or can't you see like how this is impacting everything around you in your life,
mhm.
that's what people need. And like how natural that comes out, just gotta let you see that.
I'm gonna say this. That's a great sales pitch for the couples counseling. I'm not gonna do it.
Oh
Just
man,
saying.
sorry y'all, couldn't get him.
Yeah, no, sorry. It's not. This is not my cup of tea. This is though.
Oh man.
Boom.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hmm.
Shout out my friend Alexis for bringing that. And shout out my last interview, Kayla, for coming up with the name for this wrap up segment for the podcast called Doorknob Questions,
Okay.
right? It's the questions that we call them doorknob questions in the therapy space because it's often the questions that clients have through the whole session that maybe they're not so comfortable bringing up until they're walking out the door and they're like, oh, yeah, by the way, this happened this week. That was very traumatizing and significant in my life.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? I'm like, dude, I got like a minute left and I got to pee right now. A doorknob question. So I got doorknob questions for you as we're
Okay.
wrapping up. 3 questions that I'm asking every guest that's on the show.
Hmm.
And the first one is, what's a small joy in your life that you've been enjoying recently?
Yeah. So I had been reading a lot of just, or at least felt like I need to read more of like psychology related texts and things like that, right? Just because I'm in the field.
Mm.
But lately, I've been reading a lot more, going back to reading fiction. And I recently started reading the original Mary Shelley Frankenstein
Really?
novel. Yeah. And I'm like, wow,
What
like this.
called you to read that one?
I had it in my freaking, bookshelf, and I was just like, this is such one, a classic, but it's such a story that has had such an impact and such an influence on, like, the zeitgeist in society. But
Mm,
I don't know what the original story truly is about. Like, I've seen it, but I don't really know what Frankenstein is. And man, when I tell you, the original is so different from, the Frankenstein you kind of grew up, seeing.
yeah.
First of all, Frankenstein's the name of like the scientist, not the monster.
Uh-huh.
Two, the monster actually, for like in the story, actually can talk. Like it talks. Sorry, I don't know if anyone was reading it.
Spoiler.
Spoiler. Yeah, spoilers. No, the monster can talk, and the monster learned how to talk because it was hiding in a shed. Um, and through this hole was just watching this family, and it learned how to talk by observing this family and listening to them. So it kind of taught itself how to talk. And three, the monster actually was just seeking love from its creator.
Oh.
But its creator was so, Frankenstein was so horrified by what he had created afterwards. Like when he first saw it, he ran out of the lab and pretty much stayed up all night because he was terrified it was going to come and get him and kill him. But then when he went back to the lab, the monster was gone. He was like, oh, okay. Okay, I'm good. Damn, am I really going to ruin it for y'all? I don't know if I should, but there's like a one juicy part in there.
Oh.
Sure, I'm gonna do it, whatever. So Frankenstein,
Sorry, y'all.
the monster actually ends up pretty much creating chaos for Frankenstein not even by not well, no, he did it on purpose. So he ends up killing Frankenstein's brother,
Mm.
little brother, and then frames a girl who's related, like a family friend, um, of Frankenstein's family. So when the girls find that when people find out the boy is dead, they find that the girl had like a locket that the boy had, um, in on his person because it was like a locket that was given to him by another cousin. They find this family friend's girl, and people were like, "Did you kill this boy?" And it's like, "No, I don't know what happened." Blah blah. They end up pretty much executing the little girl
Oh my god.
because they thought he did it. So when the monster, like when Frankenstein finally learns about that his brother's dead, blah blah, he goes back home, but then he sees a monster through like the forest, and as soon as he sees the monster, runs away. But then later on, they meet up again, and then that's when he sits down and tells him, "Yo, this is what I did, and it was payback for bringing me into this world, and
Huh.
to make me stop, I want you to create me a wife now." Yo, this is so different from
For
like
real.
I'm like this is so deep, dog. The real Frankenstein story
Whoa.
is awesome, but
Sounds like
it's
it.
deep. Like, yeah.
Wow.
Sorry, I just ruined it for people,
Thank
but
you.
you should still read it nonetheless because I haven't finished it yet, so I don't know what happens after everything I just told you. But it's a great story so far.
And connecting it to therapy, how
Mhm.
dare I? Anyways, how dare I? But like the things we do, like you said,
Mhm.
when we so desperately just want to feel love in community,
Yeah.
and like when we don't have that, we go off kill. No, we don't. But we go off. I mean, I guess maybe some
Yeah,
people
but
out there.
yeah, somewhere,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
But
uh-huh.
anyways, moral of the story
Mhm.
is something more wise than probably what I could say right now. Second doorknob question is if you could choose one thing that you've learned from your clients or a specific client
Mm,
in your extensive years of work,
mm.
what would you say that one thing is?
Um, the importance of actually just slowing down and going at the pace of the client,
Mm.
right? As opposed to, as we were saying, trying to get from A to B, right? Um, Again, shout out to, this one client, but they've definitely helped me kind of just understand the importance of just, nah, sometimes just staying within that space between A to B naturally is the driver of us moving towards B, as opposed to being like, okay, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, right? And pulling, pulling, pulling. And that naturally will create that level of like resistance, actually, that, erodes, I believe, in the trust and rapport that you have with that client.
Wow.
So I've just learned, yeah, just be okay to just be in the present and if pay attention to you, what's going on for you. If you're feeling bored, be curious about that boredom,
Mhm.
and you know be curious about the client too, right? Because that reflection back to them, maybe if you want to say, well, I've noticed this, right? That's already doing the work and already moving folks. So yeah, sure, B is there, but I'm saying this for me too as like a reminder, even right now. Yes, B is there, but you don't get to B by literally grabbing someone and pulling them to B. You get to B by talking, and the winds naturally just kind of will push you towards B.
Wow. Beautifully put. Mm.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Last question I have for you today
Mm.
is a little deeper one. One that I'm just wondering if you could share one thing, one message with your younger self. The
Mm.
5-year old you that said, I want to be a therapist and listen to people's problems one day. Um,
Yeah.
now, what would you share with them?
Um, what would I share with younger me? I would say, dude, you're awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah, like it's because like when I was a kid, I didn't really know if I was that important or that cool. But let's say if could share something with them, I would say, nah, it's you are an amazing person. You're awesome, and I don't know why or how, but people love you very much, and you just naturally attract people to you, and yeah, that's reflection of just who you are, and oh, you're awesome. Be happy.
So I hope your younger self can really hear those words coming out of your mouth right now.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
I hope so too. I think he does. Yes. Thank you for asking that question.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for being so open to doing this today, and coming to my home and sharing some tea with me, and, giving the people insight into your life, choosing to be vulnerable in this way on a podcast that could reach millions. And we're hoping reaches millions.
Yeah. Hey, like and subscribe.
Right. Yeah. All of that. Like, subscribe, download, please.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an easy thing to do. And I, along with your current clients, along with potential clients, and just people listening, are so appreciative of you taking the time today. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Your information will be in the show notes, but how can people out there who this conversation resonated with and want to see you for therapy, how can they connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, go to my website, peprahcounseling.com. That is PEPRAH counseling.com. Think same handle on Instagram as well. I need to be more active on there, but it'll start soon. Yeah, you can email me too at info@peprahcounseling.com. So yeah.
Cool. Well, sweet. Kelvin, thank you so much again, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Let's wrap that up. Sweet.
Okay, that was cool, man.
How did it feel?
That was cool. That was good. Oh man, you're good at this.